Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to our channel and thanks for logging on. If you enjoy these videos, do me a favor real quick and subscribe to our channel here on Watchbox Reviews. I'd really appreciate it, and then I'd be able to deliver my best to you on a daily basis, every watch, every minute to your inbox on Watchbox Reviews. And if you like the watch, or any of our watches, you can see and buy them all on our website, thewatchbox.com, with nearly 2,000 late model, pre-owned, luxury, and vintage timepieces available. Buy, trade, or sell 24 hours a day on thewatchbox.com. Today we are discussing a giant of the Valet de Jeu. Believe it or not, this is not an offshore. This is an Audemars Piguet Royal Oak Tourbillon Chronograph reference 25977BA, 44mm in 18 karat yellow gold with full bracelet. You can see it absolutely dwarfs my wrist, bestriding my forearm like a colossus. It is an absolute monster that weighs almost 1 pound. So let's talk about how it fits, because that's going to decide whether or not this watch is for you. First, 44mm doesn't do justice to just how big and how massive this watch is, because though 44mm across the round of the case from 9 to 3, the timepiece is a colossal 58mm from lug to lug across the wrist, and if you include the rigid outer points defined by the inflexible plots, these intermediate links, it actually has a rigid measurement side to side across the wrist of, wait for it, 61.5mm. So this is huge. I would say you need a wrist of at least 17.5 centimeters in circumference to even think about wearing this watch on the bracelet. The strap might be more doable, but if you're paying for this watch, you're paying for a lot of precious metal finishing on the Audemars Piguet bracelet, and frankly, it would be a bit of a letdown to wear the watch without its integrated hand-finished bracelet. So you're going whole hog if you're going with this watch. It's not particularly thin. At 13mm thick, if you've got a wrist to match the size of this watch, you've probably got a sleeve broad enough to clear it laterally, so you'll have no trouble slipping over the top of it. Oddly enough, if your wrist fits, this watch could probably fit underneath your particular dress cuff sizing. Now let's talk a little bit about this watch and the bracelet, because the bracelet is part and parcel to the look. You can't separate a traditional Royal Oak from the bracelet. When equipped, it completes the vision originally created by Royal Oak inventor Gerald Genta in 1972. Now that first watch was about 39mm, but its integration of bezel, case, lug, and bracelet established the pattern that endures to this day on this extraordinary model. You can see how the bracelet is all of a piece, almost like a piece of jewelry on your wrist rather than a watch with a distinct bracelet. It appears to be one circumferential yellow brick road. You can see that bevel lighting up, perfectly aligned across the links, as well as the flank of the lug hood itself, satin finished across the top. On the underside, you'll note broad channels between the links to avoid pinching skin or pulling hair, as well as plenty of opportunity for moisture, sweat, heat, grit, and oil to escape the wrist on a hot day. This watch had better feature some sort of locking mechanism on its deployant clasp, and happily that's the case, as there is a trigger mechanism that you must pull to disengage this clasp, and once you do, you'll note it's gold inside too. Fully polished with an AP logo style single fold deployant, it is incredibly robust and secure when closed, and relatively low in profile when completely locked. Now moving back to the case, it's as beautifully finished about its case as it is about its bracelet. You can see the metal is wonderfully full. This watch has never been refinished. All of the satin finish is factory. All of the character lines are sharply creased. A well-designed and creased suit by the ultimate tailor. This watch is an absolute masterpiece externally and internally, and we haven't even gotten to the tourbillon. The amount of finishing that would have been invested in this case, bezel, and bracelet would run beyond a dozen hours. That's what you're paying for. You're also paying for an aesthetic that's recognizable even in silhouette. That's a Royal Oak, and everyone knows it. No danger of anonymity here, nor is there any danger of anyone else wearing AP wearing this particular watch. Exclusivity is extraordinary. Let's get close to the dial. You can see, and we'll give ourselves a bit more light, that the dial is fairly simple in its composition. A pantograph cut tapiserrie dial, not the mega tapiserrie that you'll find on a Royal Oak offshore. This is closer to the traditional petite tapiserrie, richly textured, pantograph cut, I should add, not stamped like some of the offshores. This is the real deal. Yellow gold indices, yellow gold hands, yellow gold chapter rings for the registers for constant seconds and chronograph minutes. We may as well start that chronograph up. There will be a loom shot at the end, and it will be Godzilla in its scale. Now you can see that the tourbillon itself anchors the dial and provides quite a good deal of visual spectacle. You can have the chronograph running at the same time the tourbillon turns away. It's a 1-minute tourbillon beating away at 21,600 vibrations per hour. It does feature a free sprung balance, so it can be regulated precisely and then withstand conventional bumps, vibrations, concussions that you'll encounter daily on the wrist. It's not a particularly fragile architecture, also featuring a titanium tourbillon cage to minimize the rotating mass. It has a 72-hour power reserve, and if you look very closely, it compounds the gravity-combating properties of a rotating tourbillon with a overcoil hairspring, which frankly, in a wristwatch format, probably does more to level out the effect of gravity on the escapement than the tourbillon itself. That said, it's beautifully finished with a black polished tourbillon cage continuously rounded with tri-spoke structure, and a flattened black polished tourbillon bridge mounting the tourbillon on the dial side. Now, we'll turn it all over, open that immense bracelet one more time. You may have heard of Audemars Piguet Renault Papi. Well, that is a in-house grand complication, high horology, and elite finishing subunit of Audemars Piguet, originally founded by two alumni of Audemars Piguet and owned by AP outright since the early 1990s. It builds watches like the highest of the high-end Richard Mille Tourbillon Rattrapant and Grand Complications. It builds all of AP's Grand Complications. It even built the Breitling for Bentley Mulliner Tourbillon, and if this watch looks familiar, Breitling guys, there's a reason for that. You can see that the movement is executed in the finest tradition of Valet de Jour architecture and finishing. I'm going to see how close I can get without losing the focus. But you can see that the caliber, reference 2889, is a fully integrated 72-hour power reserve, 3 Hz, column wheel lateral clutch that is absolutely gorgeous in its detailing, adjusted in 5 positions like a chronometer, with 25 jewels and nearly 300 parts. Does it have an Achilles heel? Well, it's only water resistant to 20 meters. This is not an aquatic sports watch, but in every other respect, you're paying for what is beautiful, immaculately finished, and absolutely gorgeous to observe in motion. The finishing standards are different from those of Geneva, but what is in common is the level of execution. What you'll find here goes far beyond the level of finish on something like an Audemars Piguet 3120 and a 15400. The anglage is mirrored, rounded, and executed by hand, not executed by machine, as you'll so often find in the mass-produced Audemars Piguet calibers. If I can focus in, I'll try to give you another vantage point. The Côte de Genève are perfectly aligned across the bridges. All of the chronograph levers and horns are beautifully satin finished and straight grained on their top, with mirrored anglage on their profiles, and all of the screw heads are black polished. If bigger is better, this watch and its capably assembled movement represents as good as it gets. You can see and you can purchase this extraordinary tourbillon chronograph on thewatchbox.com. Monsters move in the darkness. Bold and gold by day, gloriously green by night. 44 millimeters, extraordinary in engineering, finish, and size. You can see this Audemars Piguet Royal Oak Tourbillon Chronograph 25977 and buy it on our website.